So here we are at McCulloch House in Pictou, Nova Scotia, and by we, I mean me, all of you, and Shanae, who's going to walk, and I don't know if you're going to walk, you're definitely going to talk us through. It doesn't look like we're walking. We've discovered, for the folks at home, that you're studying music.
Yes.
And you were saying keyboards, but also voice.
Yes.
So I'm thinking we could sing our way through this interview. I'm thinking you're not going to be singing your way through this interview. And
Probably not, no.
Nobody at home. There is a little-known provincial statute. It was enacted back in the 80s. Nobody knows about it. But it prohibits me from singing in public in the province of Nova Scotia. Yes, so there will be no singing interview today, except for that part.
That's too bad.
Yes! I knew I wore my chicken hat for a reason. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. Nice. We could do musical theater. We could just do the entire thing like, The Lion King in the West End or something like that.
Yes, please.
I would be more like the director because I can't sing, but I think you've got potential to... I could be Pumbaa. Anyway, we're going to talk a little later. I've seen The Lion King in the West End. Yeah. So who is Thomas McCulloch? We're just going to drop right in because it's obviously named McCulloch House. Tell us a bit about Thomas McCulloch and why he's a significant figure in Nova Scotian history, because he is.
Right. Thomas McCulloch, he was a Presbyterian minister. He came from Scotland in 1803. And he did so many things here. He built the first church, he built the first school, and he established civility and essentially a law system here in Pictou. So when the first Scots had come here in 1773, barely any buildings were up. They were just scratching the surface on what Pictou, or what we understand to be Pictou right now. So we credit the life of Pictou to Thomas McCulloch because he did those things. And obviously his radical mind. He had amazing ideas. He established the first liberal school here in Pictou. Now
it's funny when you say liberal. A lot of folks at home might be thinking, Justin Trudeau or something.
Right.
The big L liberal that we think of as a political party. But we're talking small L liberal, which is a sort of philosophical way of thinking.
Yes. So at the time, church and politics was always one. And so he came up with an idea. Well, this would have been inspired by the oppression that he received back in Scotland. So the Pictou Academy, as far as we know, would have been the first liberal. And what I mean by liberal is public, therefore having no religious ties to be in Pictou, this school was. And
when was it? Do you know when it was founded?
It was founded in 1816, and it started its first classes in 1818.
And how big... Now, I shouldn't assume, but given that it was 1816, was it a boys' school, just for boys?
It was just for boys at the very beginning, but this school opened up for women in the 1880s.
Oh, wow. Pretty progressive for the time.
Yes, it was, yes.
So behind you have Joseph Howe.
Yes.
Oh, so I'm just curious. I hadn't read the quote. Pictou, that seat of disaffection, that abode of patriots and den of radicalism. Wow, he was quite the wordsmith. That nook where the party spirit sits, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. Wow, I wish politicians would talk like that now. He said, we are nursing our wrath to keep it warm. I'd love to hear that we're in the middle of an election right now. I'd love to hear that on the campaign trail. I'd like a debate on television. We've been nursing our wrath, Mr. Premier. Holy molians. Where's Joe Howe when you need him? So when people come to the museum here, we're going to try and make history interesting now. What are they going to see? History's always interesting, but it's a story, and it tells McCulloch's story. And we all have stories. Mine will never be a museum, but oh gosh, I hope not. It'd be terrible. It'd be like a House of Horrors / museum, and probably with an escape room or something like that. Which, by the way, I understand you folks are building in the basement. Is that? Are they going
Yes, we are in the works of making an escape room, and it's kind of mine and Sienna's baby. We're trying to write storylines that are fictitious, but they connect to some historical facts about Thomas McCulloch and Pictou. Oh. So it's going to be super exciting.
So wait, would it be an escape room? We're just, there's the straight highway. Whoa, hard left turn. But I'm just curious, the escape room, is it going to be sort of set in the past? Is there
It is, yes.
Okay.
We had gathered replicas and different donations of furniture and different things. So we are going to set it as if it's in the past. The storylines immerse you. So you are told in the beginning paragraph, essentially, this is your task. This is where you are. This is the problem at hand. And then you have to go along with that story.
Okay, so problem, we don't have responsible government. Excellent. Let's all get around the table, gentlemen, and figure out how to launch the revolution.
Exactly.
There's a very sharp axe up in the kitchen. Let's start there. Chop, chop.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I just had a Marxist moment from 1917 or something. The Tsar must go. So when you come to the museum, there are no exhibits about the Tsar, folks, that I know of. But how do you tell McCulloch's story as you go through the museum? What kind of exhibits are folks going to see here?
Right. So usually they have quite a long hill to climb up, so they get to see the house in all of its glory. And I like to begin, okay, well, the house that you got to admire when maybe challenging yourself up the hill, you would find the beautiful stone structure and the brick structure. And I like to begin with that. Okay, this was Thomas McCulloch's house. He and his brother built it by hand, before tools, before all this business. So
Wait,
tools as in like mechanical tools.
Sorry, the little historian just popped in my head. I'm pretty sure this wasn't built in the prehistoric era.
Right. I should have been clear on that. Mechanical tools.
Yeah, there's no tools. We're just building this by our hands. Oh,
yes,
look.
of course.
How come I have to put all the bricks down? George, this is terrible. It's okay, using hand tools and stuff like
yes,
that.
Yes. And then when they walk into the house, they get to just see a quick view of the opening. And I like to say, okay, this was Thomas McCulloch's home. Why do we honor him? This is what he did for Pictou. And then I slowly walk through the house from the dining room around. The dining room, I kind of focus on general Scottish history, the very beginnings of Pictou, so that's starting with the Hector Scots in 1773, and then we start with Thomas McCulloch. Who was he? What were his hobbies? And it's clear, if you do come and visit, that in the study there are two pieces of original ownership. There is a desk there that his brother had crafted and made. There's also a few gifts from John Audubon.
Oh, right.
Yes. The American naturalist. He had walked these halls, and I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of John.
Oh, he came here.
He came here, and they did work together, and that connects to Thomas's biggest hobby was naturalism, taxidermy. He loved to stuff his own birds and use that study for his education. Fly.
I'd like to taxidermy that fly. See, I do a ghost hunting show too, and it's at that moment where we start talking about animals and a fly falls. I'd be like Ghost, folks. It's totally a ghost. It's a ghost fly. This place is supposedly haunted too.
Yeah.
So
supposedly.
There's all sorts of stuff you can come here and see, including the Pictou County wildlife, which just might have buzzed through.
Just to fly, yeah.
Just sort of a buzz through. So what was... It takes a lot to make me lose my not to lose my train of thought, but to render me speechless. Well done, fly, well played.
It was probably John McLeod or something, just like the most generic name you got out there.
All right, couple of things. First of all, the entire McLeod clan in Pictou County is coming for you now. So Thomas McCulloch, you mentioned his hobbies. Like, was he into Dungeons and Dragons, or probably not?
Probably not. But
Early D&D player, Wizard Thomas. But what were some of his hobbies? Do we know, or?
Well, obviously the one I had just mentioned, naturalism,
right.
and getting out in the bush, and studying and doing experiments. That would have been his top hobby. Whether he had much time for it or not, we're not quite sure. But he busied himself. He was kind of a workaholic in that way. We can assume, at least. He had come in 1803, and he got right to business when it came to what he wanted to do. Back in Scotland, he received a mission to build a church. Not here, though, actually. That's another little story. He had originally gone to Prince Edward Island. That's where his first mission was.
Right.
But I'll tell you the story after, so we stay on track.
Sure. Oh, holy moly. Somebody has taken the golden retriever thing. No, okay, staying on track. Totally staying on track, because that was another one. Let's see how well you can keep me on. It's like there goes the dog again. Off he goes into the bushes.
He goes.
So, okay, he was going to go to PEI. We'll come back to that, but he came here.
He came here, And he got right to business. He built the first church and built the first school. His first school was not Pictou Academy. It was actually a log cabin school for children. And it is believed to be on the property, either behind the house or where the center would have been.
Long gone, though.
Long gone, though. It actually was burnt in flames by somebody who did not agree with him. Ah, sadness, indeed.
Sadness? Where you see sadness, I see, that's an interesting script point right there. A little plot point that takes us into the feud that developed between Thomas McCulloch and, Ed Stevens or whatever.
Exactly.
I don't know if it was Ed.
Probably. Honestly, it was probably John McLeod or something. Just like the most generic name you got out there.
All right, couple of things. First of all, the entire McLeod clan in Pictou County is coming for you now. And it's like...
Okay, cut that out. Don't use that.
How dare we? It's
how
like,
dare.
Did
Or
John
the
McLeod...
The McDougalls too, or the Frasers.
Holy, you're just going through all of Pictou County. It's like, I think those are the big three, folks. That's
Those are the
gold,
big
silver,
guys.
and bronze right there. So Sinead will be leaving town after this interview and heading back to Loch Broom, where she'll be putting up the walls. And
Yes, yes.
We've got to barricade ourselves in for a few years, folks. Okay, so we've established that these are the villains of the piece. Anyway,
I didn't mean that. Peace.
I know you didn't mean it. But see, you were trying to keep me on the straight and narrow, but see, this is how I'm using the Taekwondo school of interviewing. Now I flipped it back on you, see,
Yes.
so now you're a little discombobulated. I like it. The ebb and tug, folks, the ebb and tug. So back to, well, I think we need to keep on the straight and narrow though,
Yes.
Sinead. So the school burned down.
Yes.
And then he built the Pictou Academy, did he?
Yes, I think that was his next venture. Now, I have to make clear that the log cabin school that was on the property was clearly just for children, and obviously children meant a lot for him. He had 9 children of his own, and he also helped children who were either orphaned or just didn't have a place to stay. He also boarded children in this house as well, so most of them were his students. And yeah, that was his first thing. Well, not really his first thing. Religion would have been his first thing. And going back to that, he had what is considered the Harbor Congregation. That was his first congregation of church. And the name comes from, quite literally, they didn't have a building at first. And so they met on the harbor. So Harbor Congregation. They literally just had church on the beach. Like the best idea ever. I don't know why we're not doing that now.
I know. Church on the beach,
Yes,
that awesome,
yeah.
like big bonfire and everything. Oh, wait, no, sorry, that's Game of Thrones. And Church on the Beach didn't work out well for some of
No,
the people that
no.
were in the fires. So
Anyways.
maybe Church on the Beach is not a good
Yeah.
thing.
So yes, he took the Harbor Congregation and he started that. The school was kind of the next thing, helping the children, because
Right.
there were many children from the Hector Scots already. Some of them had come on board, and then after they were, came about here, they started their lives here.
Sure, because families are coming over.
Families are coming over, and so that was his next venture, was a log cabin church to teach these kids their ABCs. Another little fact that goes along with that the Scots, they had mostly spoke Scots Gaelic, and English was either something that they connected to their oppression and would probably rather not speak it.
It's true, yeah.
So, but obviously Thomas knew, is believed to know both languages, but obviously he used English to be, the language of knowledge, you would say.
Right, and Scots Gaelic was, I spent a year living in Scotland, studying there when I was younger than I am now, and it was a language of revolution to the English. The people that spoke Gaelic, they suppressed.
Yes.
It wasn't, the Highlands clearances weren't just about taking land or raping and pillaging and plundering. They did other things too, like suppressing the language
Yes.
and trying to just take their culture away from them.
And they did,
Yes,
actually.
yeah.
After Culloden Moor in 1745, that was the beginning of the end for Scottish culture, essentially. And it took a while to get back on its feet. After the Culloden battle had lost, Scots were, oppressed in so many different ways. Like you had mentioned, like pillaging and raping and using these people as if they were garbage, as if they weren't people.
Yep.
And along with that, they banned the speaking of Gaelic. They banned the wearing of tartans. They banned wearing of the kilts, and they also banned the bagpipes. You weren't allowed to play the bagpipes, and that was something that was deep in the heart for them.
I know more than a few folks who would still be on board with the banning of the bagpipes. I am not one of them. I love the sound of bagpipes. I have Scots and English in me, so but it just brings something out when you hear it. Even if you've never played it or whatever, it's just if you have that there's something mystical about the playing of the bagpipes that I love.
Because of that oppression, because of that stripping of culture that they underwent in Scotland, they came here with their best garb. They made sure John Mackay was one of the pipers to come on the Hector, and he actually didn't have to pay a fee because they were like, this guy's important. We need a bagpiper to come to the new land with us.
Nice.
But that's just a whole other little side story. Anyways, they had come to Pictou Harbor, and there's a mural and a drawing that was made of the first landing of these people, and they came on the shores, and they were in their best garb, and they just blew up the bagpipes and just made it so ceremonial and almost beautiful. I mean, some people might say that's the sound of a dying duck, but anyways, but that's my sister's description of the bagpipes.
Wow. Okay. So the gold, silver, and bronze medal families of Pictou County, and now you've just thrown your sister under the bus. Folks, this is the best interview ever. I am truly enjoying the little nooks and crannies that this one is taking.
Oh my goodness.
You can actually get vegetarian haggis in Scotland. My wife had that. She actually loved it. The sort of flavoring of haggis is actually not bad. It's just once you realize what it is you're eating, it's like, oh, I can't get past that. When last we were speaking of Thomas McCulloch, we were talking about his hobbies, which included Dungeons and Dragons and some other things.
Yes.
When you move from that room, where do we go next?
So after the study, we go down across the hall and we see the pantry, Mrs. McCulloch's pantry. There is unfortunately not much to say about Mrs. McCulloch, whether for reasons that she was a woman or that she was just too busy. There wasn't much said about her. So I took really advantage of what we do have of her, and I tried my best to make additional signs around the museum to try to tell the story, or at least give you an idea of what Mrs. McCulloch was like. And the pantry was my first room, and the pantry kind of gives you an idea. There's like jars there to give you an idea. Okay, this is where she did her canning. This is where she did her food processing, probably maybe some beating of the dough, kind of giving you some ideas of what she was like. And then we walk into the kitchen, and that was the heart of the house, essentially. This is where everyone gathered to eat and to talk and whatnot.
We still do in the Maritimes, time-honored tradition.
Yeah. Well, some families, they sit on the couch. That's just dreadful. Oh, another little tidbit of anger. No, just kidding.
Couch makers and furniture sellers now. You're like Batman. You're developing an entire rogues gallery in one interview. It's awesome.
Oh no. Anyways, so we're in the kitchen, and then we talk about, okay, so what happened in this room? Well, she was cooking, and she was using, I also like to talk about, okay, what kind of foods were they eating? What kind of food did Mrs. McCulloch prepare? Well, it would have been like
question, yeah.
haggis and cullen skunk and all these different weird sounding meals that they probably would have had. And obviously, Mrs. McCulloch was known to have been a bit of a herbalist as well. She would have used a lot of the native herbs around, and she would have used it both for medicinal purposes as well as edible purposes as well.
So, haggis, I know what haggis is. I've had it. Yeah. You can actually get vegetarian haggis in Scotland. My wife had that. She actually loved it. The sort of flavoring of haggis is actually not bad. It's just once you realize what it is you're eating, it's like, oh, I can't get past that. But so leaving haggis aside, cullen skunk, sorry, what was the other one you said?
Cullen skunk and haggis. I think that's all.
Okay, what is Cullen skunk? Yes.
It has something to do with potatoes.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. I love potatoes.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very nice,
No.
but it's kind of like a stew with potatoes and lots of, very similar to haggis. They're using the ugly meats like the stomach and the intestines. They mix that
okay.
into
Moving
a big
on.
stew.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Don't want to lose your lunch or
Yeah,
something.
no, I haven't had lunch yet, but now I don't want to. Although I do, Cullen skunk, it's a very interesting sort of charming name.
Is it skink or skunk now?
Could be skink.
Oh.
Now we've just annoyed all the Cullen skunk fans, the Cullen skink fans. So folks now look at church and it's like, for most Canadians, I think it's maybe something you go to once a year or for funerals and that kind of thing. There are some people who still go regularly, but a lot less. Back in the 19th century, it was the center not only of your life on a Sunday, but it was often the center, as with Thomas McCulloch, of political change, of social change, all sorts of stuff going throughout, hand in hand, as you said, politics hand in hand with religion and faith. And so, you could do long class analysis of how churches, some were for the poor folks and some for the richer folks, and get into things like pew rents and everything. It's a deep, deep dive. But you can come here and you can see a house, a museum dedicated to one of the leading figures of that movement, and his wife, I'm sure, and his children, and as you say, the legacy that he left on for folks still sort of reverberates through Nova Scotia today. We can still see and feel the effects of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was a deep, deep moment. I liked it better when we were singing and talking about skunk pie. No, it's not skunk pie. Skunk pie. Oh, that sounds tasty too.
What is it?
Cullen skunk.
It is Cullen skink.
Cullen skink.
It's skink.
All right. Well, this is one of those moments. I claim to be a Time Lord, folks, so maybe I'll have to go back and just pop Cullen skink in. So this is sort of a wonderful trip through time. You can come here and learn about Pictou Academy, and it's not just, hey, the history of a school. There's a reason why that school is important. There's a reason why Thomas McCulloch is important. Our society would look radically different if we did not have these radical minds fighting to change the way things worked for the better.
Yes.
These are the things you learn on Maritime Museums. It's a good thing you're going on to study music and not me, because nobody wants to hear me sing. Thank you very much, Sinead, for the chat and for the laughs. I love any interview where we can have some fun too and sort of try and throw each other off balance. I like that. Wow, we went through the Highland clearances, the Battle of Culloden, Cullen skink. This has been a wide-ranging sort of interview. So if folks come to McCulloch House, you can get a tour from Sinead, which at least this summer, you've been here for 5 years, right?
I have been, yes.
So I don't know next summer if you'll be here or not, but somebody like you, or maybe you, but these are the folks also that you see at these museums that can walk you through it, talk you through it, and but I also assume folks can come through, and if they just want to go through on their own, that's fine too. Yeah, but you really should take the opportunity to talk to folks like Sinead, because they'll give you the inside scoop on Cullen skink.